Hi there, I'm Dustin Foster. I'm going to show you how Forescout XDR helps reduce noise by up to 450 times so that your SOC team can focus on legitimate threats. When a SOC analyst logs into Forescout XDR, they can see the assets that are most critical to triage next. You could simply assign someone to do the triage, or you could take a look at the details and understand the event that's happening before it becomes a security case. On the cases screen, we can see my active cases to be investigated. First, let's look at our phishing attack. I've made some description, I've made some incident analysis, I can see the TTPs involved, and I can even add and remove them based on my investigation. Here I can see any past occasions of this particular issue, and I can also see details about the issue itself. So here we've correlated together a proof point with an Outlook-based TTP where Outlook spawning Chrome, Chrome spawning PowerShell. PowerShell's reaching out to an IP here. Let's see if we know anything in the past about this IP. Well, it turns out it's been in our environment for a while. We've seen the occurrences of this threat actor before. It's also related to this Russian domain that we've seen before and is cited by OpenFish and Stampar. Let's take a look at another type of detection. This is an asset that's become no longer compliant. It was actually Forescout iSight looking at the asset and determined that it was no longer compliant to its endpoint security policy. Someone had removed that policy, impairing security defenses here. What's great is the investigator knows, because of our position with iSight at the network, the vendor, make, model, open ports, operating system, FQDN, which switch it's plugged into, all sorts of information to help expedite the investigation and the remediation. And in fact, we can automatically take threats from this console and bring them into iSight to perform network access control or one of over 100 different remediations that we could perform, maybe an isolation segment or reinstall that security control. From a SOC management perspective, I can see my SOC top of dashboard. So I can see the data flows, how the indicators and detections are being triggered, or do I have any risk of unclaimed cases that are going past their SLA period? I can also see my executive report. What is the funnel performance? What's my events per second? What are the top offenders? This one's very interesting. This shows you not just what you've been attacked by, which we do have reports on, but this is what you're covered for from a MITRE TTP perspective. So techniques, tactics, or procedures used by attackers. Green here indicates that you have coverage, both data flowing and rules within Forescout XDR to detect this particular TTP. Red shows the coverage is offline because the data source has stopped flowing, so that provides a visibility gap. And gray shows that the data source has never been collected. There are no rules and data sources coming together to see these particular issues. I can also discover what if. What if the R&D team is spinning up Google Cloud and we were to plug in Google Security Command Center Polar? Well, it's going to show us how we could detect TTPs like deploy container, hijack execution flow, acquire infrastructure, compromise infrastructure. It allows you to simulate what exactly your coverage would be based on the tools that you have or tools that you're thinking of investing in. Of course, it allows for the tracking of SLAs, SLOs across an entire year here, so you can monitor your security program. You have different SLAs by severity, and you can see the time to detect, the time to contain, investigate, and so on. On the security incidents panel here, we can see the top issues in the environment. We can see top notable security incidents, open versus closed case count, false positive ratios. And on the detection screen, one of my favorite widgets is this value of data. So here Windows events are super noisy, but only produce 14 detections. Those are 14 that are human actionable or SOC actionable to go investigate, versus something like Forescout iInspect produced only 310,000 events, but that resulted in 970 detections. We can see CloudTrail here, Azure, and such. This is where you can see what TTPs you've been successfully attacked by and your top true positives as well. Jumping into our rules, this is the heart and soul of the system. This is where the out-of-box value is derived by our data science model, where we do the normalization to the common information model, and we have these out-of-the-box rules, over 1,500 of them, that help you look for threats in your environment. I'll give you a couple examples here. This one is looking for Outlook creating an attachment. It works across Sysmon, Carbon Black, CrowdStrike, Defender, SentinelOne. If we look at one of the IOC ones, for instance, here it works across a huge number of vendor solutions where it's comparing threat intel to data from these sources. Let's look at a more complex rule. Because there's full built-in UEBA, we're looking at behavioral graphs of machines and users and looking at anomalous traffic like beaconing or improbable distance traveled. And you can see these are, again, working across a wide variety of vendor solutions, but conduct a much more advanced way than just a simple signature to look for a potential threat here. Let's go to the logs. So here we can see all of the raw information from the log system. We can actually go and take a look at any particular log here. We can see its parsed version. We can see its JSON version. And we can actually see the raw information if we want to go compare how the parser's doing or if there's any other extended information. You can also run really quick visualizations. Say I want to look at a data source of Windows event logs. And now I want to see the process path that these Windows event logs are invoking. I can see my long tail here of the most frequent process paths versus the most infrequent, and I can visualize them in different ways super quickly. Let's take a look at administration for a second. Here's where you onboard the data sources that you want to plug into Forescout XDR. It's either done by push or pull, and often it just requires API credentials. So if I'm bringing in something like a AWS storage bucket, I would say where to route it through, and I would enter the access key, secret key. If it's older systems like, say, a Cisco ASA that speaks syslog over UDP, it's simply a port where it can speak to TCP, UDP, or TLS. And again, we have a connector that can help ship unsecured logs if necessary, but most logs can arrive directly to the cloud without any issue. This is where our log storage is managed. So for the most recent 7 days, it uses ultra-fast SSD, so all your logs are in RAM for very efficient search. Then it tiers down to spinning disk for 31 days, and then it goes into cold store for 365 days or longer for compliance. But you could simply click a calendar cell here if an auditor wants to see a log from December 6th, and it will reload at the rate of 1 terabyte in 5 minutes, ultra fast to bring it back into hot storage. This is where our IOCs are managed, so you can see all the different sources that we curate, both public and open source, and you can export them into any other tool that you would like. Maybe you'd like to take some of our community sharing rules and bring them into your firewall as an automatic block option, for instance. The Forescout XDR provides data support for over 170 different vendors. That means not just parse, normalize, and that we can pull in the data, but that means they're valuable rules to enhance that and find threats within that data. We provide assistance with data onboarding, so you don't have to wire everything up yourself. We provide MITRE ATT&CK, both the prioritization of what you have from a gap coverage, but also showing you what you're being attacked by. We also have a patent pending data pipeline that normalizes everything to the common information model at extremely high scale, over 100,000 events per second per tenant. This is all put into a data lake that has that hot, warm, cold storage. And there's 2 tiers of options. There's a shorter ephemeral storage if you already have an existing storage strategy with a SIM or a data lake. And then there's a long-term option if you want to use our storage system for compliance in an efficient and cost-effective way. There's the full threat detection engine that uses a blend of 5 different threat techniques, as well as 1,500 fully verified and battle-tested rules that provide that immediate out-of-the-box value. We also have over 70 sources of threat intel, and you can add your own if you're part of exclusive feeds or ISAC or ISAOs. We have built-in UEBA for any of the behavioral attacks, the dashboard, both configurable as well as persona-based, full SOAR integration, especially made very powerful with our iSight and iControl on-prem to be able to take hundreds of different actions. Built-in case management system that can connect with Jira, Manage Engine, ServiceNow, RSA Archer, ConnectWise, you name it, all the popular systems. All provided in a cloud-native console that's easy to set up, easy to access, fully multi-tenant, so if you have business units in various different geos and want to break those up, yet have a headquarters view, you can do that. So I hope you've seen how Forescout XDR could reduce noise in your SOC by up to 450 times. It also uses our unique position in the network to be able to do full spectrum response for both managed and unmanaged devices. The same platform can help with risk and exposure management, and it's predictable endpoint-based pricing. Thank you so much for your time.